This is the Sabbath School lesson for the first quarter, 2022.
Welcome to Lesson 10. Jesus opens the way through the veil, ready for teaching on March 5. It's part of the series In These Last Days, the Message of Hebrews, authored by Dr. Felix Cortes, who is the Associate Professor of New Testament Literature in the Seventh-day Adventist Theological Seminary at Andrews University. And I'm your reader for today, Dr. Percy Harrold. Monday, February 28. God's Invitation. Read Hebrews chapter 12, verses 18 to 21. What was the experience of Israel at Mount Sinai? Hebrews 12, beginning at verse 18, For you have not come to the mountain that may be touched and that burned with fire, and to blackness and darkness and tempest, and the sound of a trumpet, and the voice of words, so that those who heard it begged that the word should not be spoken to them any more. For they could not endure what was commanded, and if so much as a beast touches the mountain, it shall be stoned or shot with an arrow. And so terrifying was the sight that Moses said, I am exceedingly afraid and trembling. When God called the Israelites from Egypt, his plan was to create a personal, intimate relationship with them. He said in Exodus 19, 3 and 4, You have seen what I did to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Thus, through Moses, God gave the necessary instructions to prepare the people to meet with him. The people needed to consecrate themselves first. We read in Exodus chapter 19, verses 10 to 15. Then the Lord said to Moses, Go to the people and consecrate them today and tomorrow, and let them wash their clothes. And let them be ready for the third day. For on the third day the Lord will come down from Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. You shall set bounds for the people all around, saying, Take heed to yourselves that you do not go up to the mountain or touch its base. Whoever touches the mountain shall surely be put to death. Not a hand shall touch him, but he shall surely be stoned or shot with an arrow, whether man or beast, he shall not live. When the trumpet sounds long, they shall come near the mountain. So Moses went down from the mountain to the people and sanctified the people, and they washed their clothes. And he said to the people, Be ready for the third day, do not come near your wives. Those who ascended to the foot of the mountain without preparation would die. Nevertheless, once the people had prepared themselves for 2 days, then, as it said in verse 13, when the trumpet sounds a long blast, on the third day God instructed that the people shall come up to the mountain. He wanted them to have the experience Moses and the leaders of the people would have when they ascended the mountain and beheld God and ate and drank in his presence, as we read in Exodus 24, verses 9 to 11. Then Moses went up, also Aaron, Nadab, and Abihu, and 70 of the elders of Israel, and they saw the God of Israel. And there was under his feet, as it were, a paved work of sapphire stone, and it was like the very heavens in its clarity. But on the nobles of the children of Israel he did not lay his hand. So they saw God, and they ate and drank. The people later recognized that they had seen God's glory, and that it was possible for God to speak, as it says in Deuteronomy 5:24, with man, and man still live. But when the moment came, they lacked faith. Moses explained years later in Deuteronomy 5:5, You were afraid because of the fire, and you did not go up into the mountain. Instead, they asked Moses to be their intermediary, as we read in Deuteronomy 5:26 to 27. For who is there of all flesh who has heard the voice of the living God speaking from the midst of the fire, as we have, and lived? You go near and hear all that the Lord our God may say, and tell us that the Lord our God says to you, and we will hear and do it. And Exodus 20, verses 18 to 21. Now all the people witnessed the thunderings, the lightning flashes, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoking. And when the people saw it, they trembled and stood afar off. Then they said to Moses, "You speak with us, and we will hear, but let not God speak with us, lest we die." And Moses said to the people, "Do not fear, for God has come to test you, and that his fear may be before you, so that you may not sin." So the people stood afar off, but Moses drew near the thick darkness where God was. God's manifestation of his holiness at Mount Sinai was to teach the people to learn to fear or respect him. The fear of the Lord leads to life, wisdom, and honour, as we read in Deuteronomy 4, verse 10. "Especially concerning the day you stood before the Lord your God in Horeb, when the Lord said to me, 'Gather the people to me, and I will let them hear my words, that they may learn to fear me all the days they live on the earth, and that they may teach their children.'" And Psalm 111, verse 10, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. A good understanding have all those who do his commandments. His praise endures forever." And Proverbs 1, verse 7, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction." And Proverbs 9:10, "The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the Holy One is understanding." And Proverbs 10:27, "The fear of the Lord prolongs days, but the years of the wicked will be shortened." And also to the lesson that he is merciful and gracious, as we read in Exodus 34, verses 4 to 8. "So he cut 2 tables of stone like the first ones. Then Moses rose early in the morning and went up to Mount Sinai, as the Lord had commanded him. And he took in his hands the 2 tables of stone. Now the Lord descended in the cloud and stood with him there, and proclaimed the name of the Lord. And the Lord passed before him and proclaimed, the Lord God, merciful and gracious, long-suffering and abounding in goodness and truth, having mercy for thousands, forgiving iniquity and transgression and sin, by no means clearing the guilty, visiting the iniquity of the fathers upon the children and the children's children, to the 3rd and the 4th generation. So Moses made haste and bowed his head toward the earth and worshipped. Thus, while God wanted Israel to come to him, the people became afraid and requested for Moses to be their intermediary. The description in Hebrews of the events at Sinai follows. Primarily, Moses reminded to the people of their lack of faith and their apostasy with the golden calf, and how he was afraid of meeting God because of their sin, as he said in Deuteronomy 9 and verse 19. "For I was afraid of the anger and hot displeasure with which the Lord was angry with you to destroy you. But the Lord listened to me at that time also." The people's reaction was not God's plan for them. It was instead the result of their faithlessness. So to finish today, because of Jesus, why should we not be afraid to draw near to a holy God? What are the conditions, however, for us to be able to draw near? This lesson was read by Dr. Percy Harrold for Christian Services for the Blind. Sponsored by the Sabbath School Department and distributed through Hope Channel Australia, this podcast is also redistributed by Hope Channel Germany, Christian Record Services for the Blind, and It Is Written. It is also available on SoundCloud and through multiple podcast distributors, including Apple iTunes. Remember, God is always faithful.